Hello, people. Welcome back to another video by your good friend, Chad Marco, the Big Anarchy. Make sure you guys check out that like button. Make sure you guys check out my other social media, tap that like button. And I thought of a interesting new video that I could do after my anime review. So you guys know I just did the Frieren anime review. And so I said, how can I kind of like milk it a little bit more? And you guys know that I go to 4chan a lot, and that 4chan has an A board where they talk about anime. So I said, you know what, after I do my anime reviews, I'm gonna go to A and I'm gonna find or make a thread or several threads where I can get the opinions of the lovely citizens of A, and then we can see what they thought about the anime. So I'm going to be reading some posts from some threads that I found on A regarding Frieren, so we can see what the people think, not just me, myself. So let's get right into it. So the OP here says anime of the decade or a meme show that's tailor-made for Reddit. So as I said in the review, Frieren is very, very popular right now. It's one. I think it's one of the most popular anime and manga in circulation at the moment. And when I went to GalaxyCon, I'm not sure because I wasn't really aware of all the characters, but I bet now, like, if I went through the footage, I'd probably find a lot of people, other than that one guy that recommended it to me, that were probably cosplaying as some of these characters. But yeah, Frieren is very popular at the moment. And so the first guy says it's overrated. And I think he's making fun of the fact that he said tailor-made. Oh man. And then this guy says it's objectively the best fantasy series of the past 20 years. Now I can't say because I tend to not be into this particular genre of drama / fantasy anime, so I can't necessarily say, but that's why we're going to be checking out these guys' opinions. So this guy says it's normal. Now fuck off. This one says overrated, but it's still halfway decent. And this guy says, why do retards dislike Frieren? And then this guy replies, he says, makes them feel clever and unique to hate something popular without the cost of losing the feeling of having a bunch of people agree with them. Look, sometimes people just aren't going to go for it. When I watch, look, I can see why somebody wouldn't like Frieren. I can see why people love it. I wouldn't necessarily say why people would hate it though. Like, I kind of get the overrated thing. I can see that. I can see people say, okay, Frieren is overrated. But to just dog shit on it, that's what I wouldn't necessarily understand. But there is a certain feeling that you get when you dislike something that seems to be pretty popular. I can't lie, I've been in those shoes quite a few times. I think like when I watched what was that gay ass shit, Clannad? I hated Clannad, boy, and I love to say, right? And Evangelion, I love to say Evangelion is overrated. right just like when me and that girl at GalaxyCon was talking about Evangelion, like you could tell I couldn't wait. Like we couldn't wait to have that conversation. So it does happen. I've been there too. But as far as Frieren is concerned, like I said, I can see why people would say it's overrated, because when my conclusion after watching it was that it has the potential of great, like all the bricks, the foundation of greatness is there, but it hasn't quite reached that height. But I think they would have to really be stupid to fuck up what they've already created. But I can see why people might say it's overrated, because I don't think it's really hit its stride yet. But if you have an eye for quality, you can see where it's headed and why it's highly regarded at the moment. This guy says zero fan service unless you're well, I'm on YouTube. The only relevant male characters is treated as a joke. All the women are Mary Sue's. No otaku tropes. Yep, 100% Reddit. Now, is that true? Zero fan service. Zero fan service. Yeah, it's really not as far as like girls being dressed a certain way, like showing boobs and ass. Like Frieren is completely covered. Fern is dressed like a nun, damn near. There aren't any girls that are really blatantly sexualized in this anime, but I would say they're still very waifuable. they're very waifuable, waifuable. They're very waifuable because of their character, though, because of their personalities. So I think that element is still there. It's just for a different reason. Maybe it's for the best, you know. The only relevant male character is treated as a joke, and I think they're talking about Stark. And yeah, all the women are Mary Sue's. I think that at this point, that's pretty true too. It does seem to be that the best or the strongest characters thus far have been women or females. It's like when you look at that demon that Frieren had to fight while Stark and Fern were fighting her two underlings, like the head of the one with the scales, like she was the leader of the demons that were trying to attack that city. And you know, again, it kind of an example of strong female character leading the way. And I'm not against it, but it was just interesting that when I read this post, I thought about it. I was like, yeah, like most of the powerful characters are female. You go back, Flammy, the great mage Flammy, Sari. There's that girl, I've got her name, but the one with the hair that's one of Sari's apprentices. Yeah, like most of the strongest characters are women in this. And then this guy says the only relevant male character is treated as a joke. But he says Himmel is the only relevant character and he's a demigod. Now, I'm not sure about that. Whenever they do show Himmel like in the flashbacks, you don't see a lot of him in terms of doing like action stuff. But there was one moment where they showed him, I think he had like slashed a demon or something, and he was like super quick. It was like, whoa, damn. I didn't know Himmel was rolling like that. But maybe this guy knows better because if he's been reading the manga, then he's more aware of like where the story is at now and what's been revealed as far as Himmel and his power level. But you don't see a lot of that in the anime, so I can't really go based off anything but what I know. But he's saying Himmel was... It would make sense, though, because Himmel was the leader of the party that defeated the Demon King. I just think in the first season, they don't really show him doing much as far as, like, fighting and whatnot. And so this guy says, how many miles of demon cock did Frieren take during her 2,000 years alive? I don't know where this comes from. I don't know where this, like, I'm trying to get this joke. I've seen this a couple times. Like, are they trying to imply that maybe over the course of all those years, like she's had been, what do they call it? Defeat raped? You know how they have those Ace games where if you lose the battle, you get raped. Now, Frieren, she even admitted that there were several times in her life where she lost to other mages. Most of them being humans, but a few demons as well. So maybe that's the joke, that she lost to a demon and probably got raped somewhere. Or maybe she just gave it up to survive. I don't know where that comes from, but it just seemed like some Coomer shit to me. And so, oh, here's a guy with a real opinion. It might not be anime of the decade, but it will remain a highly recommended classic for decades to come because it's an excellent first anime to introduce people to. It's well produced, has a strong OST. Oh, Lord. Won't offend your parents with fan service, and it has enough thematic substance to not be seen as superficial and childish. There will always be insecure nerds looking to get their friends and family to take anime seriously as a medium instead of having their dad think that every anime is DBZ or whatever. Frieren is the perfect show to get people into anime that will otherwise turn their noses at it, and that's going to keep it getting watched long after most other shows fade from memory. I agree with certain things he says, but I disagree with probably most of it. The OST, to me, and I said this in the review, was very generic. I'm not saying it was poorly produced, but to me, it was it just sounded like uninspired fantasy music. Like, I would expect to hear the same music loading up like an old EverQuest game or World of Warcraft game. Like look, you put the OST on any like fantasy Dungeons and Dragons type game, and it would fit right in. That shit was so uninspired, bro. Like, I watched the first episode of Jujutsu Kaisen, and immediately I was like, oh, this that JJK OST, right? That soundtrack has flavor, inspiration, direction. But I digress. But also, excellent first anime to introduce people to. I disagree. And this is why I disagree. See, my go-to, whenever I had to, maybe not even like, I guess my situation is kind of different, because it was never a thing of like introducing anime to people who weren't aware of it. It was just kind of like giving a good recommendation. And I've noticed, like, I would go for Gurren Lagann. Like, Gurren Lagann would blow the socks off like 90% of the people that I showed it to, because it had that effect on me. I grew up watching anime, but when I saw Gurren Lagann for the first time, it was like mind blowing. And or Death Note. Like, Death Note that's the one that I would go for normies that might have not really been in the anime. Because I think it is like it's a better blend as far as like drawing them in immediately. I wouldn't pick Frieren because I don't think it's the kind of anime that would draw somebody in immediately. Like, I get what he's saying, right? As far as people might turn their nose up at anime because they look at shonen as being like silly and over the top and stuff like that. But my point is just this: if you can't appreciate that side of anime, why even take the time to watch a Frieren when you can just watch some gay ass Sundance French film? Or, like, if you're looking for like just drama and dialogue and being bored, right? And again, I know I'm kind of making fun of artsy, dramatic, Oscar-winning movies, and of course those movies are great. I'm joking here. But I'm saying, if that's what you're looking for, just watch that. Why go to anime looking for a Sundance type film? Why go to anime looking for something worthy of an Oscar? Just watch an Oscar nominated or Oscar winning movie. You know, I feel like the primary appeal of anime is a lot of the tropes and the things that make anime stand out that people have made fun of or might make light of. I think that's what makes anime special, not anime trying to emulate or pretend that it's something else. Again, it's great when we have those shows or those movies that are able to break those barriers and sort of exist outside of having to obey these tropes and these ideas and expectations of that shonen anime kind of puts on 90% of anime. Great. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just like, I'm not going to waste my time trying to get somebody into anime if they don't appreciate what makes anime different and special from normie movies or Sundance gay French films. I don't know, but like whenever I think about like Sundance movies, I think about French movies for some reason. But anyway, yeah, kind of agree, kind of don't. So this guy says the love is well deserved. I'm honestly surprised it hit the mainstream as hard as it did. It's slowly paced, and only in the second season did it start having any kind of cool action. It's not what I would expect the mainstream to like. It's got strong themes and top tier direction on top of good content to adapt. I think his assessment of it is very similar to mine. Because I noticed as well that the pace is very slow. I said in the review that I wasn't really fond of the action. I thought the fights were mid, but as he said, it's also got strong themes. I think it has good writing and dialogue. I think what makes it work, like I said before, is consistency. I don't think it's really hit that greatness level yet, but it's so consistently good. And I think that they just have really likable characters, and it's fun to kind of watch their relationships with each other and watching those relationships evolve. And I think, like I said in the review, the plot really isn't the strongest part right now. It's the characters. And I think that's what people are drawn to. I think people are, it's that people are so drawn and into Frieren. They're so drawn and into Fern, Stark, and these other characters and wanting to know what's going to happen next. I think that's really that's the driving force of it. On top of the great production values, even though like the music is uninspired, admit it ain't bad. And the animation quality is just top notch every episode. So, you know, I think his assessment is pretty spot on. And this guy says, it's great. I like the characters. Bing. I like the animation. Bing. I like the themes. Bing. My only complaint was losing the fourth party member. I feel like the main cast lacks something. Fern and Stark's teenage antics are cute but monotone. I agree. The whole thing where they introduce Cian and then immediately pulled him, like they introduce him, make him a part of the party, and he fits in well. Like it's a good feel. It's like, here we go. We got the 4 party members. It's just like the good old days, 80 years ago. And then they snatch him away because he want to go look for his friend. Now, again, I think he's going to return at some point. So I wasn't stressing about that. But I agree with his point there, was that I do think that to give the audience another good character that makes the relationship dynamics even more interesting and then take them away, now you're just back to the core 3. I don't know. I don't think I'm really feeling that move. Season 1 avoided its issues by introducing tons of cool characters in its latter part, such as Ubel, Werble, Dinkin, Seri. Those were the same ones that I did that I mentioned in the honorable mentions, the exact 3. Oh man, of course Seri. But as anime only, I have no idea how it will continue to stay fresh and interesting going forwards. I heard after season 2 comes the best art of the manga yet, so I'm fairly positive. Yeah, I think that was a pretty grounded response there. Like he said, the characters, the animation, the thing. That's he called it. Like that's it. People love the characters. They love the high production values. It's beautiful to watch. And the themes, there's some depth to it. You know, there are certain issues and character flaws and problems that Frieren and the other characters are having to work through that people can relate to. You know, Frieren is dealing with the regret of not having the kind of relationship that she would have liked to have with a friend that is now gone. You know, so you have a character that's experiencing the regret of missed opportunities. That's relatable. You have Stark dealing with his own cowardness and inability to help his family and his tribe. You know, a lot of young men, they can relate to that of, you know, being cowards or pussies when they were young and then having to fight through that, having to strive through that to become a better and strong man. You know, you have Fern, who's going through like a bit of a teenage angst. Like I can see a lot of girls, like young girls, especially relating to a character like Fern. You know, Frieren is the kind of character anybody can like, male, female, old, young. But I think Fern in particular, like that's gotta be the female's choice right there. That's gotta be the female's choice. But yeah, it's the anime has some depth to it. But he called it, man. Those are really the 3 things that makes it special. And so this guy says, best anime fantasy I've seen since Lodos. I don't know what Lodos is. And for the emotional development as opposed to the battles. See, there we go, right? Same shit I was talking about. It's not really the fights. It's the characters and the shit that they're going through. Interesting to see. In a season 2 first episode full of quality, all the trolls could cope with it is a blue rock. Amazing problem to have since the visuals, music, characters, pacing, and OPED were all consistent with the last season. Still mad whores is Frieren #1. Stay mad. So Frieren seems to have some regular haters. You know, I haven't been on A in a while, so I didn't really see the hate. You know, I kind of just jumped on the bandwagon after the recommendation by you know, my push-up rival from GalaxyCon. But reading these threads, I realized like, oh yeah, like Frieren is a top dog right now. And you know the way it is, especially on A, is that whenever you got an anime that's really popular, you always gonna have that crowd that just has to hate on it for some reason. And it's just like Death Note back in the day, Naruto. And really, Jujutsu Kaisen is like the Naruto of today, as far as like being like people love to hate on Jujutsu Kaisen, and I feel like it just reminds me of the Naruto hate from back in the day. You guys know I've shit talked Naruto a lot, but I watched the first part of Naruto, not Shippuden, and you know I might shit talk it, but I still gave it a pretty high score. I still like watching it, but it is fun to talk shit about Naruto. Here we go. So now, you know, the serious threads were kind of short, so I had to go to one of the Coomer threads. I think this is relevant. This guy says, so the OP says, hot take, Frieren is a more desirable woman than Fern. So now we're getting to the waifu crowd, the Coomers, the Gooners, etc. So this guy says 1,500 years old, most likely used goods. I don't know. Because they might reveal something about her backstory where she was married to another elf for 100 years. We really can't say. I doubt it. I don't think they're going to go that route with her. But, you know, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised. And then this guy said she's a confirmed 1,500-year-old virgin. Sari is a 2,000-year-old virgin. This guy says she'd be a cold fish in bed. Fern might actually react here and there. Now, one thing you got to remember that kind of, if this really fucks up Frieren as a waifu option, is that part of the reason why elves are so rare is that they don't have a strong sex drive. They don't have a sex drive on a similar level as that of other creatures, especially humans. They're not necessarily asexual, but it's kind of implied that they're very close to it, and that's why they tend to not reproduce very much. They just don't have a strong sex drive. It's like male and female. And so if you were to be with somebody like Frieren, it would be kind of an odd relationship because she just wouldn't have the sex drive to really satisfy your little weird nerd anime fantasies like I have. This guy says, I'm autistic, and this is correct. Fern does these weird emotional manipulations. Frieren would never. Me and this guy, we seeing eye to eye. I think I say this? I think I talked about this in the fucking review. Because there are moments in the anime where Fern gets upset with people, but she'll hold it in and she'll do like these passive aggressive things. And again, it's cute in anime form because it's played as a joke, but in real life, dealing with people like this can be very annoying. You know, when you're dealing with somebody that you can easily upset, but then they're not going to tell you why they're upset, and then they're going to start acting weird against you, and you're not going to completely understand why. And then now you got to start begging for forgiveness or detach more, and then fuck up the relationship even further. Fern would, because of that, again, it's a joke in the anime 90% of the time, but that's one thing that would make her kind of a bad partner. It's played as a joke, but in real life, it ain't funny. It's like with Frieren, you get low sex drive, but no mind games, no manipulation tactics. With Fern, you get normal sex drive, but games, you know, like typical female mind tricks and shit. So pick your poison. So this guy says she's cute and will remain cute forever. That's an underrated plus. Even if another girl was hotter than she is, that girl would eventually get old and gross. So that's another big plus for Frieren because she's gonna look to be in her prime forever. I get like, well, for your whole life, right? Let's assume you're a fat, overweight, sloppy otaku, and you've managed to get Frieren to fall in love with you somehow. Well, for the entirety of your life, you're gonna be able to enjoy a 1,500-year-old elf woman as your wife. Congratulations. And so this guy says Sari is the only genuinely hot character in the series. She's the only one whose sleepy face and quasi-autistic lack of emotions fits the character 100%. And this guy says people with foot fetish definitely love Sari. And you know, the funny thing is, as I was watching the anime, I saw her feet. Right? I saw her feet and I was like, it's gonna be some foot fetish shit going. Not in the anime, but I was like, I bet you when I start looking into this, when I start going to them threads, when I start seeing these posts on X wherever, I was like, it's gonna be some foot fetish motherfuckers. And lo and behold, bro, like I think by the second thread I looked into, you already had this shit going on. But they are pretty blatant with trying to put her feet in the forefront. I mean, that other dude said there's no fan service. There's foot fan service. That is undeniable. Like the way they shot that scene of her feet, the way she was balancing like a pedal on her toes, I was like, bruh, come on. Like that's what we going for, the foot fetish? How do elves work? Do you think the same genetics that keep her from aging also keep her pussy and asshole permanently tight and not worn out after all? I probably should have looked at this thread. Oh man. So this guy says elves not having sexual instincts is kind of a weird way to write a long-lived race, considering you question how they came into existence, aside from all being first-generation spawns of a deity or something. I would have done it so elves have a mating season every couple hundred years, but because they've been scattered and there are no other elves around, they can't reproduce. Obviously, have elves and attraction towards non-elves would have to not be a thing for this to work, but it would ultimately be a logical element for this setting. I don't think that elves not having a sexual instinct means that they couldn't have survived or reproduced. I mean, I think it's because like a lack of a sexual instinct doesn't mean a lack of fucking. Like people do stuff because they have to sometimes. Like okay, elves might not have a sexual instinct, but they probably have a sense of self-preservation of just wanting to live. Like I think they don't want to die, and they understand, okay, I'm an elf male with this elf female. If we reproduce enough times, we'll have an elf village, and then we can all work together to survive by fighting, foraging for food, learning magic, building a fucking civilization. So again, I think the idea that a lack of a sex drive means that there shouldn't be any elves, it really doesn't make sense. I think it's just that you could basically say that for elves, reproduction is sort of it's a means to an end. It's a mechanism for their continued survival, because the more elves there are, then the better protected they are from the other races. And the more likely it is that their race is going to continue to survive and thrive going into the future. But the less of them there are, that means they're going to be more vulnerable. So again, that doesn't really make sense, because it could just be basic, like robotic type self-preservation actions of, okay, we're going to reproduce so we can survive. And do I have to say it? This guy says Himmel died an unloved virgin. Oh no. And then this guy says Himmel probably wanted to marry Frieren so much. And then this guy says, why didn't he just move on? Now look, I gotta say this. I feel like the series sort of places the blame on Frieren for them not having the kind of relationship that she wanted. However, I blame Himmel. And I don't mean to say this to promote traditional or expected gender norms, but let's be honest, Himmel, you're the man. You're not just a man. You're not just the man. You're the man that defeated the damn demon, the demon king, the demon overlord, with your party, your friends, but you were the leader of that shit. If you love Frieren so much, why didn't you ask her out? Why didn't you ask her to marry you? Why didn't you confess? That's one thing that and again, I was critical of this whole idea of Frieren so badly wanting to go talk to Himmel from beyond the grave because of a misconnection. Because let's be real, like when it comes down to these types of misconnections, we look at the guy as being at fault. Why didn't you say something, bitch ass nigga? and that's kind of how I feel, especially like with Himmel's confidence and the way he kind of just took life by the horns. Why did he let Frieren slip through his fingers like that? He did. He didn't confess. He ain't put no ring on it. He ain't kiss her. He didn't do anything. So I feel like putting it on Frieren the way that the story pretty much doesn't even make sense to me. Because if I blame anyone, I blame Himmel. Because obviously at the time, those feelings were stronger in him than they were in her. It took her years in his death to kind of realize that, okay, there might have been something deeper there. And then on top of that, she's a fucking elf, right? Low sex drive anyway. So I put the blame on Himmel as far as that misconnection. And so this guy says, people joke about her being unattractive, I assume. I want to bury my feet in her feet and held them and lick them clean. Oh boy. Okay. Well, next. So this guy, or this OP says, so is this the next big slop show that Redditors and my anime list eat up now that no one cares about it? And this guy says it is number one on my anime list, which means yes. Is it really number one on my anime list? Yeah. Number one is Frieren season 2. Number 2 is Frieren season 1. Number 3 is Chainsaw Man. Number 4 is Full Metal Alchemist. Number 5 is Steins Gate. 6 is Shingeki no Kyojin or Attack on Titan. 7 is Gintama. How the fuck did they get so high? 8 is Gintama. 9 is Hunter x Hunter. 10 is Gingu Iu Densei. Legend of Galactic Heroes. I don't understand some of this, to be honest. Oh, fucking Clannad. Oh, gross. But yeah, Frieren is at the top. I heard that Full Metal Alchemist was at the top for the longest time. That show is pretty good though. Right? I'm not a Full Metal Alchemist hater. It was good. So is this the next bait thread now that OP is done sucking cocks? This guy says all my friends are anime veterans that started with Full Metal Alchemist and none of them know this. Yeah, Full Metal Alchemist was definitely like a starter show for a lot of people. That was one that I kind of watched early in my anime watching career. I would see it on TV, but I think the one I saw on TV wasn't Brotherhood. Brotherhood is like the real deal one that people actually like. I think the one that was on Toonami at the time or Adult Swim, that was like the one where the story was remixed. Like it wasn't accurate to the manga or something like that. And so this guy says no one has cared about Full Metal Alchemist in 10 to 15 years. The only reason it stood on top of the my anime list for so long was because so few people care enough about it to watch it and drop its ratings. But this guy says no, it's because there were legions of retards botting the website, keeping Shitty Hood as high as possible. If you're not a noob, you remember in 2019 when they nuked Attack on Titan and Fruit Baskets when they were climbing up the ranks because it threatened my Brotherhood. So it seems like Full Metal Alchemist has a very strong fan base that are willing to do silly shit like this to keep it at the top. But there ain't no stopping Frieren. There's no stopping this damn Frieren train. I'll tell you that much. Full Metal is probably better than Frieren. Spy X Family outsold Frieren, by the way. Oh yeah. This guy says Spy Family is one of the very few manga that does outsell Frieren. Literally only that and One Piece that sells more per volume. It's far bigger in East Asia than the West. Not even close. China absolutely loves Frieren. So I'm kind of getting a bit of an anime lesson here. You know, with me, when I watch anime, I hear of it, I watch it, review it, kind of move on. I'm not really as into like watching the culture, the rankings, my anime list and all that shit. I keep my anime list on a notepad. I keep mine on a damn notepad, bruh. But yeah, shit. I knew it was popular, but I didn't know that it was already considered like top 10 right now. Damn. This guy says the story is so fucking dog shit that the direction and animation had to put in so much extra work to carry that slop. And even then the show becomes tournament battle shonen slop and the writing gets somehow even worse. Entire show is a euphemism for a stupid woman having a woman moment, going off on an adventure to fuck Chad and be a whore for 30 years and leaves her soulmate to get old and die alone, then regrets it after and raises a surrogate daughter while the show paints her as a tragic heroine. Pure Reddit femoid material, get better taste. Nah, I'm not feeling this post. But one thing I will say, because that we can agree on, is the woman moment thing. Well, not necessarily agree. In fact, I would say that it's stupid, but not for the same reason. I think it's stupid that they put the blame on Frieren instead of Himmel. I would put the blame on Himmel. But the silliness of the plot is that, one, that's like the main focus right now as far as what's driving her to head up north to find a place called Heaven on Earth. That whole again, I said this in the review, that's a weak ass reason. And if anyone was to blame for that, I'd say that Himmel was to blame more than anyone else. But I think that as far as saying like the story is dog shit, I wouldn't agree with that. I think the beauty or the good aspects of the story is not in the main reason why they're traveling together to go head where they're headed. I think it's the little things along the way. That's what makes the story good. It's the characters and what they're experiencing day by day, as opposed to the actual reason why they're going to where they're going, which that's pretty bad. That's pretty stupid if I'm going to be fair. But yeah, that's it. That's it. Those were the posts that I found in these threads that I thought was interesting. My takeaway from reading these threads is that, one, like I thought, people love the characters of Frieren. A lot of people seem to agree with me that the story is kind of weak as far as like the reasoning, but the story, what makes the story good is the characters and, you know, the things that happen episode by episode. Not the big quest, not the big mission, but the everyday stuff. But they also seem to agree that the action and the fights are one of the weaker aspects of the anime. And one thing that I've seen too is that it's like, I knew it was popular, but damn, is at the top of my anime list at the moment. I think it really says something because it's relatively new as far as people actually like talking about it. And like the anime came out, what, like 2 or 3 years ago, like about 3 years ago or something like that. And it's already hit the top of my anime list. So, shit, man, I'm glad that I took the time to watch one of the most popular anime of the moment. You know, I can stay relevant in this anime conversation. But yeah, I'm gonna continue to do this. I think, whether it be a show that I already reviewed or a show that I'm going to review in the future, I think that it'll be fun to check out some of the A threads and see what those weirdos think about the show in particular. But I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next. So, Johnny.